Meow.
That's great that that's the first thing that people will hear.
Meow meow.
Yeah.
Meow.
Well, you're closer to a wild animal than most, Topher Gardner, and you certainly are a man of the land. And I think of all the places to begin, I am curious if you ever imagined, let's say, I mean, you can take it back to when you were my age at 32, or even now at, what is it, 5 sunspins or something like that, 5 decades, I should say. If you ever thought that festival achiever, festival producer would be one of the experiences you had in your life. And I am deeply curious on the bigger scale of community building, if you ever felt like that was a role that you would play in this world. So with that, welcome back and take it in all four directions that you choose.
Well, yes, 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 and yes.
Okay.
When I was in college, I was a Florida kid at a Michigan university. So at Michigan State, East Lansing, there wasn't that many like things to do at night. It was pretty lame, at least
Yeah.
back in the mid 90s. And the Michigan culture I really didn't vibe with because all the dudes would wear plaid and they wore their hats that would cover their eyes. And,
Yeah.
you know, nobody listened to any like dance music or anything like that. And I was like really
What
into,
they listen to? Just angry drinking country music or something
no, they
like, or
didn't listen to
rock or
country music. They were like really into like Van Morrison and like
okay.
Dave Matthews. And I like Dave
Yeah,
Matthews and
yeah.
there's nothing wrong with that. But like, if it's Saturday night, like there's only so much of that bullshit drinking music you can listen to. And I wasn't a drinker. I mean, I did, probably on my two hands get drunk in college, but like that wasn't my thing. Like I didn't look forward to it. I liked the girls and I liked dancing. And so I would bring up all this booty based music from South Florida and the rave scene was really hitting down in South Florida in the mid 90s. And so I would essentially bring all that music up. And by my senior year in college, I really was acting as a producer and not even knowing it. Like I was like a hype guy. So I started to a friend of mine who had one of these fathers that I'm not going to say his name because I could get in trouble, but
Sure.
his dad was one of these guys that was extremely wealthy, but nobody knew what he did, that type of thing. Well, his son was kind of walking in his footsteps and just had money to spend on like stereo equipment and renting places. And I would go around and because of my football career, I was kind of in good with the ladies, and I would get all the girls to promote and hand out the flyers for the parties and stuff like that. Because it was very obvious guys are going to go wherever the girls are, and the girls, at least in the mid '90s in Michigan, if you were semi good looking, that was a rarity. So I would focus on them, and I had some clout because of football, and I would be like, "Hey, blah 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 blah," and they would like hand out, and I'd make these like really cool like poster cards, and like one of them would have like a girl's head like swinging like this with their hair going out, and it said "sweat," and it just had a time, and then so it would build like this
Wow.
tension. It would build tension. It would build like, oh, Gardner's doing this thing. Oh, it's at such and such house, whatever. And I'd tell a few of them where it was, but I wouldn't have it ever on the cards. That way I wouldn't get arrested. And yeah, so got a good little DJ thing going on there for a while. I wasn't ever a DJ. Like I had the thing in me that wanted to be a DJ, but I never had the skill set. But I was always a pretty good producer. And then after college, I kind of parlayed that into becoming like an ashram director when I was in my 20s, where I was going to be
Is that
like,
is that like a tennis director, just more sex, or is it? What do you think?
no, actually, the ashram I was a part of was actually pretty pristine. Like there wasn't
Yes,
really that
I've
that
heard
type
you
of
say
thing.
as much. Yeah.
But I was the hype guy. I was still the hype guy. Like I think I'm a natural Bravo.
In an energetic sense there, or did you actually have access to if you were leading? meditations? I mean, was it audio vocal based, or are you just talking about being a energetic tone setter hype guy in that environment?
I was both. I
Okay.
mean, we ended up having at the ashram, we ended up having very successful courses that I taught. So the guru would come in at the end as sort of like the pinnacle, as like the closer. But like I would be the one in class for 10 hours a day, teaching people processes. So I've always had like the gift for gab and the ability to communicate. And so, but I was essentially acting as like the head recruiter, and I didn't know that that was the capacity that I was until I decided to quit the ashram, and then the ashram fell apart. So I was like, oh shit, I thought everybody was here for the guru. I thought everybody was here for that. And they weren't. They were there because of my enthusiasm for the guru. And I was like, now I see the trick. Like I see the whole thing. That's why, have you seen the skit that, Owen Benjamin and we did on we called it, it wasn't The Hill. What was it called? It was called, the Final Acre.
I sure have. I've watched it several times. Yes.
Yeah, that was born from, Owen's fear of like being seen as a guru, and I was giving him all the inside baseball of like the workings of how the number two is actually the one that is like, like that whole skit. We were having a good time. It was a good catharsis for me.
Yeah.
So that's why
Oh,
I
oh
did.
my gosh, have you ever seen The Prisoner, the British thriller? I'll send it to you. There's a dynamic there with number two being the one who runs things. So I'll make sure that's on your radar as well. But
Yeah.
that was the brilliance, so much brilliance. I mean, I also loved the shoes versus barefoot thing aspect of that. But
Yeah.
continue on with your thought on that.
Yeah, and that was the thing. Like I was bringing up how the thing fell apart was exactly in that scenario. Like the guru wanted me to do these things that he was being a hypocrite about, and I refused to do it. And I was like, and then I read this wonderful book from Wilhelm Reich called The Murder of Christ. And
Well,
that book was essentially shows how the ego will build up an archetype of a Christ figure to kill it. And the reason why is because in nature there are no idols. Like there's no idolship in nature. If you like watch nature like kills everything.
mhm.
And so it's only man that makes idols, and I think that's why it's a commandment: is don't you shall have no other idols before me. That whole thing.
But
And so,
nature, just quickly, Gardner, to follow that, nature sacrifices things
absolutely.
so that life can
But it's
continue.
not a sacrifice, because to have a sacrifice implies that you're getting
Idolatry.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, you're
Okay.
getting something other than the blood.
I see.
You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
There's like, oh, now I have eternal life, or what, whatever the
Yeah.
person or the belief system is. Sacrifice implies some supernatural. In India, they would call it a punya, like you're receiving something on the other side.
I see.
That's not what's happening in nature. The gazelle is killed by the lion because the lion wants to eat something. That's not a sacrifice. I watch the eagles by my house. They're murdering all day long. And the murder isn't, oh, I'm sacrificing the fish to Anana.
Right.
Like they're not doing that. They're just eating. So, and I watch it like in my garden. I'm a gardener, and I'm gardening all the time. You put good soil out, you have everything in the world trying to get in there and use the soil. You have all these intrusive things. So like half my gardening is just weeding, pulling things
Yes.
out. And the better soil you have, the more things that want to encroach upon it, right? So
Yes.
like it's one of those things where the human likes to idolize something because we all need a hype man one way or another, like in a
Yes.
way that gets our juices flowing. We're narrative based species.
That's what I was driving at, just to punctuate that and see if it makes any sense to you, with nature not having the idol aspect, but the idea of the Christ presence, the Christ consciousness, something that the ego conjures to then be sacrificed potentially. I know it's different in nature, but I see you drawing a theme between natural processes and also what we do.
Yeah, I was actually trying to be specific about the
Please.
book. The book is specific. Like the
Okay.
book isn't being general. Like the murder of Christ isn't about the murder of like a figure like Jesus Christ. The book is about Christ, quote unquote, as being an idol that you've made.
I see.
And so what that is talking about an ideal. So like you have an ideal, and humans are driven a lot of times by ideals, especially when they're in the younger part of their life, when they're in the, say, the first epic, which is up to about age 30. Idealism is a primary emotional driver. And the people, the wizards of the world, they love to work on people's ideals. And what they'll do is they'll falsely take that cloak of idealism, your ideal, and use you like a battery. Now
Yes.
there is no victim in this. That's what the book points out is. And that's why it was so pivotal to me. It showed me my own folly. My folly at the time was I needed an externalized authority. I created one in the quote unquote guru. And then I was in this very interesting egoic way destroying the guru so I could be free of it because it's not natural. So I went to the guru and I told him, I was like, look, I'm sorry that I made you my idol. Like, I'm sorry that I put you in this position. Because whenever you make something an idol, there's a loop current that isn't beneficial for either person. And I apologized. I took responsibility for it. And like within a month, the ashram was gone
Mm.
because I bowed out. I was like, I'm out. So that was kind of a rough position to be in because we had bought this property in Costa Rica. I had no idea that the guru would react the way he reacted. And yeah, everything like dissolved very, very fast. And then the jungle tried to eat me. So that's one of those things.
And all of this born out of a question around leading you to hosting the Elementals gathering, feeling.
Well, the point I was trying to make is I've always had the power of persuasion, like
Yes.
that's why I chose the name Biocharisma. It's because I am a charismatic. I mean, I have been like as a 5'9" white guy. How was it? I was a team captain, for a football team where our average line size was 6'5.5" and 320 pounds. Like, it wasn't because God blessed me with this incredible physical ability. God blessed me with a very strong will. So when I believe in something, I really push it. Like I believe it balls to bones, and that just has a ripple effect in my consciousness.
And if there were ever evidence of powers beyond the physical, it would be that beyond just the way you show up on paper is what is much more impactful is the will. And I look forward to talking some more about that because that was a theme of learning the self-mastery principles of Rudolf Steiner, of getting
Mhm.
into what the will really is and how that is something that is channeled and related to before going into, for instance, relevant and personal to me, was then the spirit choice of positivity, choosing positive, choosing life affirming thoughts, feelings, habits, actions. All of that comes after you have a relationship to your will, also your thinking as well. So, now that you waited, or I don't know if you feel like you waited, maybe it was more of divine timing that you finally answered the call to host the Elementals gathering, which by all accounts, Topher, is a triumph, and it is living in people's memories, and they talk to me about it, even though I don't ask them about it, which is always a good thing. You know what it's like.
That's a good sign, I gotta
Yes, it
tell
is.
you.
Yeah, when people find a way to bring things up with absolutely no relevance to the current conversation, I do it professionally. So about the things that I'm passionate about and excited about. So, yeah, having talked to several people that had their own takes and a little bit with you, how about if no one has heard of Elementals Gathering before, now that you've had an edition of it, how would you
Yes.
describe it simply? Because I take to calling Confluence a freedom festival. I know that doesn't quite do it justice. And so, as someone trying to do justice to progeny of yours. How do you describe it? And then let's hear your highlights, your surprises, expectations versus standards versus the experience itself. So, firstly, to someone who is not familiar with an event like that, how would you paint the picture for them?
I just could be honest with this because we're talking about Will and we're talking about the Elementals Festival. I started a podcast when I lived in the middle of the rainforest because I was intellectually starved. And so what I did was I was like, oh, I want to talk to all these people that I listen to. So I started a podcast. And so what the Elementals Festival was essentially the love child of the podcast that I've had over the last 11 years, because everybody I reached out to, I earnestly want to hear what they have to say. And it built so much goodwill. So when Rebecca Steele, our main producer, she produces the main stage at Confluence. She was producing with Dr. Mari Arce the terrainology conference in New York, and when I was there, she's like, "You need your own thing. Like you're like you did awesome." And I was like, "Cool." So I just reached out to all my podcast guests, like the first 18 or 19 people I thought of as my podcast guests, and I'm like friends with these people. Like I don't like just do an interview with them. Like if I want to know what you have to say, I am already emotionally invested.
Deeply,
I have to
yes.
I have to say, out of like the 200 interviews or so that I've done, there's only been like 2 or 3 where I'm like, oh, I'm not talking to that person ever again.
Yeah.
And nobody would ever know because I never posted the podcast.
Okay.
So I'm not one of these people that will sit there and complain online or anything like that. Like if I'm sharing it with you, it's because I find it very important to me. So my wife said, "This is Tofapalooza. It's your besties fest," and that's exactly how I would describe it. Is these people intellectually that we had, whether it was Andy Kaufman or Steve Young or Dr. Moshe Daniel or Owen Benjamin, Chris Crutchfield, like the people that we had were, to me, far and away the avant-garde of where I want to be. Like iron sharpens iron. I'm still an athlete, even though I'm like, a rotund 50-year-old.
Yes, you are.
At,
An
at
athlete.
You're like, yes, you are rotund. No, but what I mean is, like, as an athlete, I still like being around people that intellectually challenge me. So, for example, yesterday, I interviewed both Dr. Mari Arce and Dr. Moshe Daniel. They don't see eye to eye on the terrain thing. They're very close, but they don't see eye to eye. I don't pretend to know. So I surround myself with people that know more than I do. And I've always done that. Like with the ashram, is like, I don't know about this Raja yoga thing and enlightenment. I'm going to put myself in the thick of it. Like in athletics, like I played tennis in South Florida. Like the Bolletary Academy was down the road. I went to school with Jennifer Capriati. I wanted to play Jennifer Capriati, even though she would wax me. I've always had that competitive spirit of being like, oh, they're better than me. I need to be around them, because the part of me is like I get so much juice out of like being in the thick of the intensity of being around people that are better than me. And it wasn't, I have to admit, intellectually, I was still acting like a dullard, last October when I went out to terrainology. And it was Andy Kaufman that like put me straight. Because as I was talking to him, I kept making qualifications of like, putting him on a pedestal in a way. And I wasn't doing it outwardly, but you could tell like it was like I was almost fanboying with him.
I get
And he just stopped me and he goes, Topher, you don't need to do that. Like you're on the level. Like You don't have to. And when he said that, I still needed at that point in time, like, I needed to have the recognition of somebody that I had, incredible respect for, to like actually like be like, no, no, you're on the level. Like, you don't ever have to, like, I forget the psychological term, but downplay like my capacity. And it did give me a tremendous amount of confidence at that point, because I was like, I just started to do like an egoic review of myself, because a lot of people think the ego is always about aggrandizement, and that's not what I have found. The ego hides more in chopping a person down,
Mm.
chopping a person's capacities down, at least the way it runs in my system. And so that was incredibly gratifying to have Andy, like, just be like. And I'd seen myself, like, I with my new company, I've been talking to like a lot of quote unquote, PhDs and scientists, and they're not, a lot of them are pretty dull to me. Like, dull as in like not that intelligent, not dull as in boring. And so I'm like, I really have to stop being this. I just have to, the way I should say it is, every adult I interact with is a peer. Like, nobody is
Yes.
better, nobody is.
I was just thinking about that, Topher, literally 1 second ago, especially in the realm of, you think of something like tennis and the desire to play someone who is somewhat objectively better than you, and just go into every encounter, since you're playing the ball, you're playing the court, you're playing the person almost as a tertiary, as a third dimension, and saying to yourself, I'm not better than anyone, and still no one's better than me. That cliche, because it's true. And so you get to meet people as peers and colleagues, adults,
Yes.
man, woman.
Yeah, it's really awesome. And I guess this goes all the way back to that lesson I was learning with the guru, and not like, making an idol. And so we all have what the Elementals Festival was essentially a meeting of my peers, and then having everybody that was in, that wanted to learn, be in this open field. Literally, they were in an open field, both energetically and literally physically, to actually receive these different points of information that were like pure gravy. Like, there was not a single person there that wasn't like, from a guest speaker's perspective, that wasn't avant-garde, like somebody that's like literally on the front edge of the intellectual space right now.
Yeah.
Like, we had people talking music theory and showing all the chords and every deliberate advertising campaign. We had people showing
Who
us
did
like
that?
Owen did.
No way. Oh
Yeah,
man, that's
yeah, yeah.
that's fantastic.
Yeah, our twin towers. We had Owen at the
Yeah.
end, and we had Chris Crutchfield in the beginning. And Chris was like showing like the presentation he did at Confluence, where
Yes.
he was showing the 8 limbs. And as soon I told him, I was like, "Your 8 limbs are like the 8 wings of yoga," and he was laughing because it's all about yoking the populace.
Yes.
But like, so, like, it was just like the amount of brilliance that was there, and I knew in my heart of hearts that the side conversations were going to be the juice. And like, these people were up to like 3 o'clock in the morning, just blah 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 blah, and
You
then
can't
up.
help yourself. You can't. That was confluence as well. You just can't help yourself because you have no sense of fatigue or time when you're
Right.
engrossed in that energy exchange. So
Yeah, and then at 7 a.m., they would be up. I would be
yeah.
getting back, and where's the coffee? I was like, we're getting there, we're getting there. It was just such good vibes, and we had some beginner's luck. Like, I've seen enough things where like I'm not overconfident for our next one, which we are going to do. But we had such good vibes because these people are my friends. It wasn't like we were like doing something where I had to call up Eileen McCusick and be like negotiating.
Yes.
I was like, "Hey, Eileen, blah blah, this is this," and like, because we've literally had 20 hours worth of conversation on Telegram, where we're kicking back like what I've seen in my practice and what she's seen in her practice, and we're trying to figure it out. Like that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to figure it out. So,
And you're doing your God's honest best, and you respect that in other people. And when you talk about hearing that validation from someone like Andy Kaufman, part of it, Topher, is because it's not as if right now, because you talk about these people being avant-garde, they are closer to colleagues and friends, but it's not academia, or it's not science, or it's not political science. It's not like you guys have a conference every year, or didn't before, that you would get together and be on that level and be able to operate on that level together. So, someone like me sees all of you in that ilk as being, we talk about thought leaders or health freedom leaders or anything like that. Or my friend Alex Zek, someone like that as well, real community organizers. Again, all these monikers from the past. It's another thing entirely that you find yourself part of, and that you get to have so much fun and friendship as you do an event like that is also another new experience, I see.
it is like, and for me, it's not actually really new because I've actually been in the field. Like, so I built a lot of stages for different festivals. Like, I actually really love the build. Like, to me, because I'm not a person that likes to be around a lot of people, especially if they're inebriated.
Yes.
So all throughout the years, since about 2013, that's when like people started demanding my work in earnest. They would try and leverage, you know, the event as being something that they could pay me with. And I was like, no, it this isn't, no. And you're gonna have to pay me like my rate. And they would blow it up, and I was like, no, you don't understand the build to me, like the actually getting to meet the people backstage, work with ops, work with this and that. That is the juice. That for me that is literally the juice for me. So, um, yeah, you're gonna have to pay me my thing. So like the friendships, I'm used to that whole thing, the friendships in the back of the stage stuff. I don't have like a lot of like, glitz or glamour in my eyes. I like the people that are like making the event happen. And then the event itself is just icing on the cake.
That aligns from my view of you, that the juice really is in the building, that you get to provide the space and the structure for
Yeah.
people to enjoy themselves. And people surely did. And I heard very much the same, that the inspired by the depth of what was shared by your friends, the speakers, for people to then fractal off and go deep in their own interpretation, because that's so much of the magic as well. Is for as much as we all at an event like Elementals or Confluence or Music and Sky have so many shared values. I mean, this was crystallized for me studying Steiner's work, that for every word you utter, it has a different meaning, landing, decoding for someone else, to say nothing of when you string together sentences, paragraphs, hour-long presentations. Everyone's going to have so many myriad experiences with all of that, and then to bring that together with other people doing their best and seeking and finding. Do you have any special? So I like to ask, those are great highlights. Were there any surprises, for better or worse, that you were delighted by or bemused by, or anything that really stood out to you as, didn't necessarily
Well, it's
anticipate
kind of
this and
funny
enjoyed it?
because I was joking with a bunch of the speakers before, like when I was first reaching out to them, and I said, okay, like I was like, this is going to be a combative space where
Yes.
where where we're going to fight to the death. And so I'm going to pit long held enemies on the internet together. And who wins the argument is the person who wins the fight. And that kind of broke the tension, like, because there are a bunch of people that
Yeah.
don't agree on everything.
So it was Mari and Moshe as the finale the other day.
Well, no, but the whole thing is like everybody had a little bit of tension because people only know the internet faces, right?
Yeah.
And so, like, and we're adults. None of us are supposed to see things the same way. Like, we're just not. And I come from the school of thought, like the ancient Greeks. Like, if you're not able to hold a conversation with somebody you disagree with, because you're emotionally, unstable, you're the one with the problem, you know?
Yes.
And so that whole thing to me was like, I have no problem communicating with people as long as they're being respectful. If they don't agree with me, like I'm like, great, iron sharpens iron. Like there's some other way. Maybe they don't see it right or whatever. And all the friendships I breed are like, that's what I require, especially new friends. I'm like, look, I'm not going to agree with you. Like, I am the ultimate bubble burster. Like, I met your friend at Confluence,
Yes, Lauren.
and Lauren, and she's telling me about all this, like, natural building.
Yes.
And a half an hour in, I'm like, I'm sorry for raining on your parade, but I'm the dude. Like, I'm the guy that did that for 20 years. You're just coming into the market. You're just learning what I've spent 20 years doing, like literally doing. Like I have more time in the dirt than you could ever imagine. I get hired and paid very good money to go out and survey and look at the clay and look at all this stuff. And this is and I am at the state of the art. and, and I go, and I just want to let you know, my particular way of being is I'm trying to save you time. Like, I'm not saying this to be like the know it all. I'm literally coming from the one thing I value more than anything in this world is my time. So I project that onto other people. And if I can save you from wasting your time, like, let's do this. I'm not saying this from a superiority perspective. I'm like literally trying to save you from wasting your time. Because the thing I hate the most is when my time is wasted. And so hopefully that got through to her. She did message me after Confluence. I know I didn't burn that bridge too badly.
Good. No.
But
She'll take it in stride.
in my mentorship of life, because I'm at that stage of life where I do mentor people, it's just like lean on my experience.
Yes.
Like I'm the fool, I'm the idiot that made all the mistakes. Like I'm the dude. I'm not the dude that figured it out and had been working from perfection. I'm the idiot that had my eyes were too big for my stomach. I went for it and paid the price.
This is why you're the festival jester as well. You wear both hats.
And in the festival space too, it was great. So like I was just telling everybody that are the speakers, like I said, I've cultivated friendships with them and they know that about me. So when I speak from an authoritative position, it's because I literally have the experience. It's not
Yeah.
because I'm trying to be the authority. And this is like, yeah, it's just my station in life now. I couldn't say that when I was 25 or 30 years old. And so because I've really gone for it and I've been put in situations where I'm surrounded by people that are much better than me. Like when I pray at night, the very first thing I thank God for are the people that I've been blessed with in my life. I've been blessed with like exposure to the best people. Like they are better than me. And so I'm just like thanking God because I'm like, I can do self-assessment. I'm like, this person's like, they're better than me. And so and I'm not, too spiritual. Like I live that like, ultra spiritual, ultra positivistic life where you're like, oh, we're all whatever. No. There are people that have skill sets that are better than you. There are
Yes.
people that have more ability than you. There are people that have this and that. Like we're all different. So deal with it. And so like I love the fact that God has surrounded me with people that are literally better than me in almost every venue of life. And to me, that keeps me frosty. That keeps me like learning. That keeps my neuroplasticity up. That allows me to adapt and adjust and all the rest of it.
Depend upon it because those are the foils to charge us up. And I thought about you recently writing, doing my best to describe simply the necessity of polarity and
Mm-hmm.
not as good and bad, just the necessity of two extremes of an inhale, exhale, hot, cold, slow,
Right.
fast, night, day. That's how you know that you're alive. And when you get those nodes of feedback from other people, especially if, yeah, they have an enhanced or drastically improved skill set than you, awareness than you. And it helped me a lot learning from someone like Paul Chek when I was getting early on in my holistic health coaching training. Him just talking about that you're going to meet so many people who are 5 steps up the road than you, and then some that are 500 or 5 miles. And those are people that are valuable. They don't have to become external authorities. And I am using this opportunity to circle back to the concept of idolatry, because you speak so emphatically about it. Owen Benjamin speaks so emphatically about it, passionately about it, because that is where I see myself building a bridge when I talk to people about my role as a holistic health practitioner is building across that massive chasm between, say, a personal trainer who is, highly obsessed with the physical and maybe only goes as far as diet and movement, and any sort of allopathic care practitioner who has a similarly limited physical based skill set. And that chasm there is bridged by the transcendence beyond who is an external authority to me. Even if I hired Tom as a coach, even if I hired Topher as a guide, how do we then meet people without making it seem like external authority? And to me, it's more of, we're both travelers. I'm just 5 miles, 50 miles up the road than you. Let me keep you from wasting your time. As I tell people that I coach tennis, it doesn't make sense for me to give you bad directions on your road to become a better player. I'm giving you the best directions that I can, and it is up to you to follow that. So with that on the table, Topher, how are you offering to people a different way of looking at idols and external authorities and pivoting to? I love how Tom Barnett talks about going from AI to IA, going to inner authority. Some of the inversions are really that simple. It just takes a mirror and a little bit of meaning to transcend them. So how are you serving as a prophet to people? And by prophet, I just mean prophets just tell you what's coming based on how you're acting. It's not necessarily about, you don't have to be muad'Dib, you don't have to be someone with prescience to tell people that if you keep behaving like this is what's likely going to happen. So what pitfalls do you see in this world of, as idols are falling, maybe people are just pivoting to the next idol? How are you guiding people to move beyond that?
It's part of the reason why I've bonded with Owen Benjamin, is because of the rhetoric. Like he's perfected the techniques of rhetoric. And then the reason why we do all these funny skits is to show the intention behind the rhetoric. Because the skit, what's occurring is, in comedy, I knew this as a yogi, like, all the orgasm is the release of tension. All comedy is the release of tension. All rhetoric is essentially, I shouldn't say all rhetoric, a lot of the rhetoric that is used to create an idol will create tension in the person. And the person will be unconscious of the tension that it's created, because it's not true. The truth will actually set you free of that tension.
Yeah, we'll keep you tethered
to
that.
This is what I was talking about with Moshe yesterday. It was like, the whole thing is, when you fully look at something, fully look at it, no matter what it is, it disappears. It goes away. Because that's this world of very convincing holography it's here to have us establish with our will boundaries. All right. And so when you fall for the rhetoric of somebody that's trying to impose their will on you, you are essentially letting your boundary, become permeable, if not drop your boundary totally. And so I love understanding and the rhetoric that is used, and in that rhetoric showing the intention behind it. Like what is trying to be taken, and then what aspect of your own consciousness is making you blind to that. That's where the enlightenment comes from. When you become aware of your own intentions relative to the rhetoric that's being told to you, and then your decision process after it. So for me, one of the best things that I've heard, and I've known this because in sports, we always say you can't fake the work. You can't fake the practice. Game knows game, and so I've had that bred into me since I was 5 years old. Is like the dudes that put the hours in. You just know it. Like you're like, oh, that's a dude like that. There's ability, and then there's the person that like sweats it out of every pore, right?
Yes.
And I was the dude that sweated it out of every pore because I wasn't physically as gifted as some of the people that I was, in the circles of. So in that, the notion that is generated in the person is I want something that I didn't earn. I deserve, and it's gone even further. Like in the current rhetoric milieu that's out there, the rhetoric is you deserve
Whatever you want.
you deserve. And I think it's hilarious because I grew up with coaches that I knew were telling me the truth and said, you don't deserve shit. Just because you won the last game does not give you carte blanche for the rest of your like now you're going to be undefeated forever.
It sounds like anti-serve. It sounds like no serve. It sounds like de-serve without service.
Right.
Without no earning there.
There's no earning anything. And guess what? Nature isn't that way.
You gotta earn it.
Nature isn't that way. I'll tell you, you could take the human out of the equation completely. And I watch it all the time. Like I've lived next to water now for almost 25 years.
And just so everyone knows, you are a card-carrying eugenicist. So when you say take the human out of the equation, you, of course, mean it.
Well, every parent is a card-carrying eugenicist, whether they believe it or not. Vox Day wants me to write that book because I was just like, I said that on BB's podcast. I'm like, you might want to deny it, but there is no mother that has a child that she is, came out of her womb and wants that child to go with, a lesser than.
That's right. That's right.
Every mother wants their child to go and upregulate. They want the genes to upregulate. Women are the best shit testers because they demand upregulation.
They do.
And if they don't get upregulation, they are a real pain in the ass. So men are kind of stupid. We talk the good game, but it's always like the stare from the wifey, and I'm like, the stare from the wifey is the eugenics. That's what it is.
I think that was the last thing I saw before I went to bed last night. So I have a potent dose of it.
Yeah, the stare from the wifey is the eugenicist laser beam. I swear to God, because that's just like I see my little girl play with like the boys of her age and stuff like that, and my wife might as well be like a Brahmin Indian queen, already marrying her off to like that man is suitable, he's unsuitable, like so. And people could try to deny it. They're in the gay woke verse. Like, go away. Like, that's not true. Your genes will not make it that far. Trust me.
No. And speaking of genes, I saw this great meme the other day that said gay people really are depending on the rest of us to keep making gay people for them.
Yeah, well, a brilliant piece of rhetoric that Owen said is like, gay people recruit, they don't reproduce. And that's so true because
highly useful rhetoric, yes.
Cause I grew up in South Florida, and the gay guys were always trying to recruit me. They're always trying to convince me of their lifestyle. And it was just like, my goodness. And it was very well known. Like I ended up doing pretty well financially because I just followed the gay people where they would go buy property. They bought it in Wilt Manors and then Victoria Park, and I would just buy a shithole wherever the gays were buying it. And when it, the property value would go up. Yep. So they're good for something at least. But
I was gonna say it's not quite reproducing, but it's something.
Yeah. So
And all of this to come back to, you were talking about taking people out of the equation.
yeah, well, with that, with taking people out of the equation, living on the water, whenever you have waterfowl, like birds that eat things in the water,
Yeah.
you see the most vicious things. And then you see the birds fight each other for the kill. And I'm just like, whoa, that is awesome. There's nothing that's not people will project the word cruel. And I'm like, that is not cruel. That's a projection. It's actually completely like they are going for it. They are competing for the food. And it's just like that. I mean, you're a high end athlete. Like, when you're on the court, you both are competing for the booty. You're competing for the food. Like, that's what you're doing. And so I love that world because it's real. It's real. It's closer to nature than the promulgated, oh, you deserve this. Guess what, people? You don't deserve shit. And I've lived in third world countries. I've lived in two third world countries. And the people that were in those third world countries, for the most part, were beautiful people. And there's nobody out there that can convince me that they deserved the squalor, from the North American perspective that they lived in. They didn't see it that way. They were just fine. So like people, like marketing has people and rhetoric has people all twisted up. Like, no, you don't deserve this or that. And so I love the type of comedy that just totally breaks that down. It annihilates that at a very high level.
It takes, as you said, you were talking about with Moshe, it requires a deeper look at something, and therefore it can annihilate it if you totally disregard the ability to laugh at something, or to laugh at it within you. That dissolves the ego a little bit. And yeah, it's massively helpful. I mean, I feel like it found me at the perfect time when maybe I was taking things too seriously, or certainly having a dalliance with despair, which never serves anybody by any means. Because I remember writing to Owen one time, and he read it on the stream, and it gave the conversation a good bit of pause when I recognized that to concede to victim consciousness means the end of your story. To concede to that. And I talked with this with my friend Nikki. Did you get to talk to Nikki Leach at all at the last two festivals?
I don't know. I don't really remember.
You get a
Like, I'm not
pass.
good with names.
You get a pass. Oh, Topher, it's Tom.
No,
So
I know you.
yeah, because my name's on the fucking screen. No, I'm
No,
kidding.
no, I remember because you and I have a personal, like, we've talked for
Yes,
hours,
yeah,
like,
yeah.
so, and we've met in person. But like people I just meet for like the first or second time, and I'm not blowing smoke. Like, I meet a lot of people, and I'm dealing with tons of professional relationships in my businesses. So like I've reached my maximum RAM. So I need something more with people to just remember them.
Well, and to that, because I had a note to ask. You mentioned the intellectual starvation, and I find that that's something that is deeply nourishing from having this platform. I call it an excuse to connect with someone like you, or to Owen, and it is something that I find hard to be nourished elsewhere. And so I'm just curious, as well, what other outlets or avenues you have to nurture yourself. Because I had a friend and mentor also tell me about intellectual. You said starvation. He said constipation is you're not able to not only receive some stimulation, but also pour out your cup a little bit and be able to have that energy exchange. Because otherwise, yeah, if it's falling on deaf ears, which we've all had that experience, or many of us have had that experience, I'm sure, whether it's the more enlightened you are, the more informed you are, the more experienced you are, whatever it is, if you talk to someone who does not have the language to engage with you, then that is a draining experience as well. So I'm curious, just other ways that you're filling your cup or plan to. I mean, I don't know if there's a book that you feel like needs to be written. I mean, I think Substack is a tremendous outlet for sure. And have you always been a man of such brevity? I was able to read your Substack article this morning, which will give some highlights too, because I see you choosing as much simplicity or brevity as you can, because that helps with people not understanding the language. So yeah, what other avenues for you to challenge yourself intellectually with output?
Well, I've always loved writing. In fact, for me, it really sharpens my mind. And I've kind of taken a page out of the Tim Ferriss, school book of writing. It's like, don't use a 10-cent word where a 5-cent word will suffice, and don't overstate a thing. Once again, I don't like to waste people's time. So I can get to the point. Like, a lot of times, because I have a holotropic mind, I think in a holographic way.
Yeah.
So that means I don't get to something in a straight line. Like, I hate telegraphed writing. Like when a person is like, this is what I'm going to say. I've said what I'm going to say. This is what I just said. I hate that. I think it's so mundane, and I think it's a lower level of writing, and pretty much that's the way AI writes everybody's shit now. And
Yeah.
I can't stand it. So for me, I'm going to be original to what I like, because that's all I really know. I can't speak for what anybody else likes. I like people that, once again, make fun of a situation, like keep it light, but still tell you the facts, like
Yes.
still give you the info, and then give a solution. So that's the way I write, and I keep it brief because people only have so much time. Like, I don't want somebody, when they buy my book, which I'm writing right now,
Good.
then when they have the hardcover in front of them, online, you shouldn't be reading stuff on a computer screen all day
No,
long.
gosh, no.
You should have the book in hand so you can feel the consciousness of the author, because that there is a transference there.
Absolutely.
And I'm talking with Vox Day tonight.
Great.
I'm really looking forward to that. That whole thing of like the transference of energetics and the rest of it, to me, is important in book form. As for what I'm just posting
Hmm.
online, I'm just trying to keep it brief. I'm trying to keep it to the point, and I'm trying to, like, dangle the carrot a little bit. I'm trying to be like, hey, look, there's action that's needed. If you notice most of my writing, there's always an action orientation to it.
Yes, absolutely.
So I'm trying to be the coach. I'm not saying I'm actually
Yeah.
not trying.
Thank you.
I am being the coach. Where it's like, okay, this is what's going on. This is how I see it. This is the solution I found. Let's go. Let's go. Come on, let's go. And that keeps me frosty, because I end up dealing with lots of people. Like, I have, and this isn't me, DM maxing right now, but like,
Yeah.
I receive a ton of people wanting my counsel and the rest of it. And so for me, a lot of times I'm always telling people that life is specific. It's like in scouting. I owned a scouting company.
Oh,
Like,
yes.
oh yeah, yeah. That was my first company out of
Oh, shoot.
college. Yeah, yeah.
Just
And
for football or across all
just
athletics?
no, just for football.
Okay.
And because that was the
There's a
sport.
there's a book. There's at least two chapters of your book.
Yeah. So
Evaluating other men professionally.
well, I still do. Like, it's
Yeah.
really, I like, as we already stated, I'm a eugenicist. Like,
Yeah.
I come from a long line of eugenicists. Like,
Yes.
so this isn't something, this isn't something new.
By no
So
means.
in that, in for those of you out there that don't understand eugenicism or whatever, eugenicism is just scouting. That's all it is. You look at the actual physicality of a being, then you measure their mentality by their actions. It's it's scouting.
Yes. And this is a core function of schooling, as I talked about on an episode and in a Substack article called "School is No Place for Learning," and because I was introduced to John Taylor Gatto's work, and he broke down from historical lectures that that is at least a couple of the functions of standardized schooling. Is you get kids constantly evaluating each other. That's brought on down by teachers, administrations for those purposes. Is who are the maybe alpha boys who are, we're just going to describe as erratic or ADHD or violent or whatever. And, you tell the whole class, but, the girls as well, like, those are the bad boys. You don't want to be with them. Like those kinds of weird games. So those are, there's pervasive eugenics that is simply put just scouting.
Right. No, and don't, like, people have to understand. They put people in schooling, like the ADD or the ADHD kid is the high performer. Like
Yes.
I've read 5 books on the neurology of the highest performers. And it's all ADD or ADHD. It's literally they have to feel stress. They have to have multiple inputs of information at one time.
But there are people who will just do a task and sit down for an hour and do that task and
That's a
okay.
delta.
Okay.
Deltas are
Yeah.
delta. There's tons of deltas.
And they're needed.
They're needed. I'm
Yeah.
not talking about that. I
Yeah.
qualified what I said with high performers.
Yes, you did. Yeah. I'm just
So
making that distinction that there are the the biggest part of the pool are deltas and betas and
we don't
supportive.
care about the top of the bell curve. Like, fuck off.
Yeah. You'll always have a place there. Yeah.
They're going to do that anyway. We're talking about who is isolated in the bell curve. It's the ends, it's the outliers. Okay, and in the outliers, the high performers, you're like high functioning entrepreneurs, executives, the people that are the quote unquote disruptors, not because they're teaching other people how to be a disruptor. All that absolute crap that's on YouTube from like
Yeah.
I 10x this da, da, da. F off. The actual people that are doing good in this world, that are doing it for the right reasons, the people that are actually being innovative for innovation's sake, that the ones that all these other hanger-oners and these coattail riders will copy their thing, copy and paste it and act like it's their thing. You know, the people that have the highest level of what we would call aliveness, the ability to touch the spontaneous spark, those people are all characterized as either having ADD or ADHD. So to me, this was a way of framing the high performer and then quelling them, because Rockefeller said competition should be illegal. Don't think that the Rockefeller school system isn't trying to make those kids, those young boys that should not be in a classroom, they should be running outside with their friends, competing endlessly until they want to pick up a book, until they want to do X, Y, and Z. The unschooling dude, Tom, the kids I watch, the unschool kids, and for a large part of them, the jabby jab kids, they are all brilliant. I'm of the mind that, like, the only thing that messed up Gen X and the millennials was the fact that we went to school and we got poked. Like, without that, I mean, every single one of these kids I see that are in the unschooled, the unpoked world, they are. I have so much hope for the future, because they literally are, from a competitive advantage perspective, there is no competition. There is no competition.
Yeah. They're pure is maybe too much of an understatement, but or overstatement. Closer to source, closer to their origins, starting off in the world like that. Those years of 0 to 7, 7 to 14, I think we take for granted, when it's so much like, I remember talking about the phrase being banished from home all day in a yellow school bus. Like that experience alone is so if those are our only two traumas in our generations of being jabbed and being being sent to school,
And for
I
boys, it's being clipped. So you were clipped,
yes,
you were poked.
not I, as I have spoken about before on the
Yeah,
podcast.
yeah.
So I
So
ducked that bullet.
that's more of like a Gen X thing. Like the
Yeah,
majority of Gen Xers were clipped. You know, Owen was like a rare one. Um, but like the majority, and so at least in North America, in Central
yeah.
America, dude, I'm telling you, man. Like when I first met my wife, and we hadn't gotten married yet, I was telling her, I was like, we're not starving, poking, or schooling our children. We're not doing the three of those. And she was totally on board.
What's the starving element? What did you mean by that?
Feeding them crap.
Okay. Yeah, malnourishing and therefore undernourishing. That's real starvation.
We spent 2 years getting her biology nutrified before because she was essentially starving. She was starved.
Yeah.
The majority of my female clients, all their neuroses are just because they're starving. And when they're starving, they're also underslept, and so they're given all this chemical to make up for something that's so simple to fix most of the time. It's just
That's
like
true. Yeah.
don't be starved and underslept. Like that seems like it's pretty obvious, right?
And still, it takes people to point out the obvious. I have someone who does that for me
Right?
professionally.
That's great.
Oh, it's well, I have my buddy Jared working on this program that he's releasing, and I'm endorsing very soon, and I'm helping to create some content for it. And he writes me right back after I send it to him, and he said, "Hey, can I give you some substantial feedback?" And I turn to Jordan, my wife, and I say, would you be willing to offer me some substantial feedback from time to time?"
I like
And
that
and
substantial feedback. That's
substantial
great.
feedback. Well, input, and to her credit, she said, "No, how about maybe just some feedback?" I said, "That's probably for the best." I would invite, or I do invite substantial feedback from, especially other men. The gut check. We spent most of Confluence Topher shit talking each other to the point of tears. Of course,
Yes.
tears of laughter. It appalled and concerned some people around us because they don't understand what, having not seen a lot of that between men or seen it in a long time. And of course, that is very potent, useful medicine, as well as the accountability factor that, especially even if it's unsolicited, with someone like Jared or yourself or many others now that I know, because I know their quality, because I know their values, I invite substantial feedback. And especially for men, that's very important. And I trust that you have that in your life, that you've established and welcomed and invited that now, because
Yeah.
who would you be without it? Be a lot softer.
God, yeah. No, I've had a bunch. Like I remember once again when I was first meeting my wife, I was like telling her, what real men are like. And I like all real men. The first hour of our conversation when we're hanging out, when we're not busting each other's balls, is we're talking about what we need to provide to our woman. And she didn't believe me. And then she met my five closest friends, and those people hold me to the fire. Like they showed me when I f up, and it's great. I'm like, oh, I didn't see that. Oh, I messed up. I didn't think of that. Like, because I know I'm not perfect. And like, I know I don't deserve anything. And I'm not saying that from like oh, I don't deserve. I'm saying like, the way I should say it is I want to earn the wealth that I have. Because I am very wealthy, and it's not rich. It's not like I, have like an excess of, numbers associated with with something. I am wealthy because of the relationships that I've built. I am wealthy because I can at any time lean on a skill set that will see me through whatever. And in that gives me time, which is like for me to have the time that I want to research and experiment and the things that I want to research and experiment with. That to me is the pinnacle of wealth.
I may have mentioned this to you, and thank you for that beautiful reflection. It's finding me at a time in my life that that has a deep resonance, very much like what I felt with Alex talk at Confluence. I don't know if you got to attend that, but many others as well, as moments of stillness thereafter, where you hear messages and you hear things reflected that they don't cause a lot of stir in your inner life. It's a lot of stillness, and I feel that now. And something I may have shared with you there, it's certainly something I've acknowledged since, is that one of my greatest currencies is enthusiasm. Is for the things that are true and good and beautiful to me. I have an abundance of wealth for enthusiasm as a currency. You mentioned relationships as well as something that you feel current and that you feel charged. And what do you think are some other valuable wares or media of exchange that people can operate in now? I don't know if you recall this, Topher. I titled our original podcast "Your People Need You." I think that was the seminal advice that you offered towards the end of that conversation, and I think about it often. And so, and I know you've talked about a little bit about this, and I think Owen as well, and others, that maybe on the physical money front, yeah, instead of giving money away to UNICEF or whatever, is there a way that you can give it to your literal loved ones and community members, or go spend money with them, go spend time with them? You know, the value of time. What are some other currencies that you're operating in right now that you feel like you can give and receive freely to others, if it's not just US dollars?
Authenticity is probably the most important thing. Like I see that with my daughter.
That's what my friend Liev said yesterday. Liev Dalton. Shout out Liev.
What up, Leah? Authenticity is huge because, especially when you're around little kids, because like little kids can sniff out hypocrisy, and when you're not being authentic, in a way you can be hypocritical. And so, what I'm noticing with that, like I use little kids as a perfect mirror in that regard. And so it would look like I'm being uncouth with my child and her friends and stuff like that, because I'm not like doing like the standard, like, I'm going to keep you in safe space. I'm like, oh, little girl, like, let's go make some biochar for the silent pillars. So I have my little girl collecting, she's 5 years old. She's collecting biomass, and I see her run into a thicket of like blackberry stuff. And like I know she's going to learn, like I did, through mistakes. She's going to learn through, like, oh, that blackberry has little thorns, and that's going to, so I don't helicopter parent her. I ask her if she wants to start the fire. I ask her all these things that would be quote unquote dangerous, but I'm being authentic to my being. I'm there. I'm going to protect her. I'm not going to let her hurt herself. But I'm showing her that her father does exactly what he's interested in. Like, he does that. He doesn't like go to a 9 to 5 job and come home and complain about that. Like, I sell biochar and I make biochar and I like making bespoke biochar and I do all these things. So she can sing a song about biochar and there's no hypocrisy in her being. There's no mixed signaling. So when you're authentic to your surroundings, no matter what it is, when you're authentic, it just helps everyone. Like, the authenticity, the is just like, it's such a great benefit for the world when you are authentic. And your authenticity could be wanting to watch a movie. It doesn't have to be like some enlightened thing. It's just like you are just being exactly who you are, and you're okay with it, like, totally. And when you're totally okay with you, it like sends ripples of peace out through the environment. It really does.
It really does. And that is part of what makes a confluence or an elementals such a memorable setting, because when else are we usually in a place of such peace for the most part, that people are being unabashedly authentically themselves, and therefore the spidey senses aren't always online of, not that, there's, it's said about New Yorkers. I know we had a couple of New Yorkers at Confluence with Jacob
Hmm.
and Mari, and shout out to Lou, another legend.
No, not shout out to Lou.
Okay, I know
We
you
don't
don't.
give shout outs to Louis.
I know you don't want him to be popular. I know you don't want him to shine because he's better than you.
He is. He is. Damn that Louis.
Oh, that was one of the highlights. But yeah, like they talk about, they're bred for their first encounters with people to be like, what the fuck is his problem?
Right.
Instead of, what the fuck is his solution? How aligned and how great are they showing up? And that is such a valuable currency, because yeah, you get to shine brightly and not really not carry the burden of dimming your light or concealing anything about yourself, that because that already drops the vibe and the energy down anyway. Is that constriction that we think requires us to be less than ourselves and shift gears and all of that. And that's why I'm grateful for the most part, especially in a place like coaching tennis, coaching health, that people's standards and expectations don't really require a lot of rigidity. I can still be professional for sure and still communicate well. And yeah, I find, to your earlier point, it certainly lends itself to a lot more clear line of communication instead of doing any of the circuitous, repetitive, although there is a lot of repeating in tennis coaching because people really need the meat and potatoes drilled home. And so I like to say that I'm the president of the Department of Redundancy department, so that people can really know that I'm being repetitive on purpose, so that they things can start to stick. But speaking of repetitive and what we consider repeatable and observable, and I know that when we talk about knowledge, some of it is a moving target. As I was listening to Dr. Mari this morning talk to Alec and getting ready to talk to you, mate, about when you look at something like biochar, and that being an external product, of course it aligns by all accounts seamlessly with the terrain and even enhances it quite literally. And then the downstream effects of what that means to food that we might enjoy, or just having our bare feet on that type of earth. And we'll land the plane here in a little bit, talking about how you have come to know your land and what it means to be in that intuitive relationship with the land. I am finding this place of mystery that feels right, feels good. To distinguish between when I hear someone like Dr. Mari talk about her criticisms of what is seen in the body, and those being artifacts as opposed to what people consider to then be causes and stories and whole narratives about, the whole field of cell biology is, like so many scientific field, is stories galore, is turtles all the way down. And it can be hard to break through that with people. And still, I'm I'm doing my best to play with the distinction between what we may not know inside our bodies of the exact mechanism for why things happen as they do. Because again, to take anything out of the body is to take it out of the body, and therefore we don't quite know how it, the whys and the hows and the what fors of it inside its terrain. That said, if you'll do this dance with me for a moment, it may be things that you feel like you have a pretty good understanding about why things might happen inside the body, because you see a parallel of what happens around the body. When I think of shared experiences like freedom, whether that's on the lawful front of how people relate to each other as man and woman, as authority versus sovereign being, those types of relationship dynamics, how things play out on a tennis court, how things play out, again, in a little bit more of an external environment, maybe there's a bit more clarity there, because we're seeing you talk about natural processes, how you're connected to that. So to distill this, is there anything that you feel like you've gained greater clarity on how or why things happen within you, and maybe you see a parallel of that truth around you, especially in a terrain perspective? When we say the terrain is all, I think that lends itself to maybe some, not maybe, I think that creates some circumstances that we can start to see everywhere because they are universal. So what comes to mind when I put that on the menu?
I think you're really going to enjoy my last podcast with Moshe that we published
Great.
yesterday because it really gets into this. So I see the world sort of like in a fractal, like as a fractal hologram. And hologram just means built by light. Pretty much everything is a derivative of hydrogen. We know hydrogen is a condensed light. So it's all built by light. And I'm not being Luciferian by that. If you had got
By
any
no means.
like people out there that love to be literal, but the spirit of what I'm talking about is at this scale that you and I can observe with our senses. I see the world, if you go to the micro, it works the same way at the micro level and it works the same way at the macro level. So when it comes to the notion of contagion, or let's just stick with contagion, what I see in my environment is that there is competition. And what I see in my environment, there are those things that would take advantage of my weakness. There is that. I can't deny that. I'm not going to blow smoke. I'm not going to be flowery. And what I think is happening in the world of terrain, when you say terrain is all, great. In the terrain, there are things out there that will take your shit. There are things out there that will absolutely, they're coming for you. Anybody who pays taxes, they're coming for you. Anybody that receives, media blitzes and rhetoric that would, deprive you of your work. That's that's your environment taking advantage of a situation. So if I'm going to scale that to the micro level, there's absolutely that also. So to say that, every single, thing that happens within the body is for the benefit of the body, that's the same thing I dealt with in Vedanta Advaita that made people go crazy and solipsistic, is they would say, we're all one. And I'd be like, no, maybe at the highest level when you're no longer in the body and you're just in the pure consciousness, but you're literally, God saw it fit that you incarnated in the form that you're in because you needed to learn the boundaries that particular form has. Once again, I'm a scout. Like all the challenges that you have as a 97-pound woman, or all the challenges that you have as a 300-pound black guy, those challenges are specific, and God gave you those challenges because that's exactly what your soul needed to learn. Okay? It's the same way with our biology. Our biology is perfect in its ability to react, but that doesn't mean our biology isn't under attack. A lot of times it is under attack. And now all the stuff I have a biochar company where we make a product called micronized biochar, and I'm having different paint companies test it. And we have great equipment. I'm not talking about, this is like some internet BS thing that people are musing about. There are square waves. There is ionizing and non-ionizing microwave radiation, and we can read it, and we can read what it does to biology. Just throw your hand in a microwave for a second. Let's see what happens. So I sell this micronized product because what does it do? You put it in paint and you do multiple layers of paint and it blocks that. What's my anecdotal experience of it? I can sleep. When I don't have any EMF smog in my bedroom, my body actually finds rest. I wake up. My body has shed all this excess water weight that it would carry under the stress of not sleeping, or the stress of the cortisol running through my system, of constantly being pinged by a stimulus, because that's the way our biology reads it, and nobody can deny it. Even though you don't see it, doesn't mean it's not happening. And so I'm seeing very real time, things that are occurring and I don't need to take a cell out of my body to examine it. Right? I can literally measure. I can see like how thin my paint is after layers and layers and layers of it, and measure the effectiveness of blocking microwave square waves. Okay, so this is something. Now, am I going to be Pollyanna about it and say, oh, the communications industry, they just don't know. They're just, you know,
Why
they,
would they lie? Why would they
the,
conceal?
exactly.
Who would do such a
They're
thing?
just trying to give us the best service possible. And
What great rhetoric, Topher. The
it,
best service.
the best service, and there's no other technology that could give us these things in a healthy way. This is the price you pay for technology. Guys, all that's a lie. That's not true. All these signals could be distributed through the ground with absolutely zero, like, the technology has been around for hundreds, if not thousands of years, because now we're seeing in the world of Antiquitech and all these, the let's just say our Tartarian predecessors, or you could say Roman or Etruscan. I don't give a fuck what the name is. Our ancestors were very advanced, and they had technology that was commensurate and healthy with its environment. Now we're in an age where a lot of this technology is literally designed to attack us. I get this Pollyanna-ness, or this, like, I see a lot of the terrainology rhetoric as being like 95% correct, but that last 5% is very important. It's the same thing. I mean, we're going to have the funniest German New Medicine skit come out
Oh yes.
because
Who's we? You're the bear champ.
it's, Owen Benjamin, it's Bowler Bear, Bradley
Okay.
Jones, it's Adam Stevens. It's like our same skit crew.
Okay. Good. I'm looking forward
Because
to
I'm calling it German New Medicine.
it.
Because a lot of times they're like, sometimes death is the rectification, and I think that's the funniest thing ever. So you could just see where that skit's gonna go, right?
Yes.
And so, let's just say we might be wearing some Hugo Boss. Um, so anyway, the whole thing with all of this is like, okay, for me to deny at the micro level that there are beings or things that take advantage of weakness, in a way, from the fractal perspective, would be for me to deny this at this level. Well, at this level, we see it. Like when you're playing tennis and you're out there on the court and the guy sees that your backhand sucks, is he just gonna go, oh,
Oh,
I'm just gonna send it to Tom's forehand every time? I'm not gonna aim for that side. Come
if
on, guy.
if he does, then fuck that guy because
Exactly.
that's not what we're in it for. That's not competition. That's something else.
No, instant karma is gonna get you, bro. Like they're gonna see the weak spot and boom, 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 boom. That's the way of nature. Like
So the
I'm watching these hawks and these eagles. They go after the injured. They go after the weak spot. They say predators, human predators. They go after women and children that don't have the presence of a man around. It's like 85% of the predators that do heinous things, they go after what they perceive as weakness. I see this with strangler vines. I saw this
mm,
with leafcutter ants. They go after the weak thing, the thing that isn't doing
yes,
well. And so I'm not saying that our terrain obviously was not optimal. It's in this world of ever increasing inputs, being optimal can be
yeah,
a little bit daunting. But guess what? There's an intention behind you not being optimal.
yes,
You have to understand, it's just like we were talking about earlier with rhetoric. what is the rhetoric working on? It has an intent. And so this is where I can think people can be a little bit overcorrective of allopathic medicine. And they can say, oh, there's nothing out there. This is all just, this is your healing crisis.
Yeah.
I know women that have been raped. And if I would have talked to them and say, oh, that was just your naivety crisis. Well, there was that. And
Yeah, it's not the whole story.
And there was a predator that sniffed it out and had the intent to take advantage of that. So I'm just being real. Like I'm sort of a adult in the sense that like I really do think, as above, so below. I think with what we can actually perceive with our physical senses can be scaled up or scaled up to the luminary perspective, which is why I love astrology, and it can be scaled down to the nano level.
And that's a fascinating perspective if we can explore just a little bit more, because my goal is not to be a terrain extremist, purist, or anything like that. Where I feel that I've landed, Topher, is that the body is not making mistakes. I'm trying to wrap my head around things like autoimmune or cancer. Like what are the, because I think something like German medicine talks about tumors as, okay, there's just an abundance of growth. It needs to go somewhere. Your organs or your tissues cannot enlarge in and of themselves as a finite space, so they grow on top of them. And so do you still see a gap there in terms of expressions of toxicity, how the body is doing its best to navigate? Yeah, I mean, because thankfully I think people like Dr. Mari and others in a contemporary level do give credence to the fact that we're inundated with the toxicity is absolutely a part of our experience now, and to the degree that we're equipped to be resilient to that is not necessarily always in balance, clearly, because we get jacked up. So yeah, you see a hole in that message still, that the body's not making mistakes, like there's no body attacking itself. How do you bring that into?
Well, that's the whole point. The body doesn't attack itself and it can
Yeah.
still die.
Yeah.
And so the whole point is, and this is what, I was being educated, because to tell you the truth, I'm new to this world of terrain, even though I like in a way was living that in the yoga world in an unbalanced way, but like coming back to it from like, the Andy Kaufmans, the Marizels, like all these people that are like really, into it now. I think the body is perfect. Like I think we're designed perfectly. And I know sometimes like if I'm in a very stressful situation, it helps to have a second person next to me to help take the load. And I really think that is something like we have to be honest about at the micro level that's happening too. Like you can give assistance. So say like, Moshe was, showing me these things yesterday, and I don't have any scientific knowledge. I'm leaning on the people that do. And he's like, okay, we're not saying that the body isn't perfect. We're saying, okay, this intrusion of X will then release a toxin. And that toxin is then the body is reacting to that toxin. And sometimes the way the body will react to that toxin is it will put the body in a full body spasm and choke the person out. Now, are you going to say that, oh, okay, that person, that's just their healing crisis, that's going to lead to death? Or are you going to intervene and stop that toxin from getting to the central nervous system? And that's just like if I was in a gunfight with somebody else, because I see that in my environment, and they have bullets that are flying in my direction and I'm not wearing my bulletproof vest, you have to understand there is that at the micro level. You have to actually do, we're not in a perfect world. We're not in the Satya Yuga where we can all sing kumbaya and our bodies are perfect and they're perfect and the whole world is full of perfect intent and
No one would harm you. Yep.
nobody or nothing would harm you. That is not what we're saying. There's literally the top of the political food chain literally sees us as useless eaters. Well, what do I do in my farm to useless eaters? I kill them. So I'm just taking responsibility. If I will do that, if me on my own farm, on my own land, and I only own 11 acres, imagine the being that thinks they own the world. So in my own consciousness, if I'm willing to on my small little 11 acres eliminate the useless eaters, I'm a fractal of the being that thinks that he owns the world and wants to eliminate the useless eaters. I'm not naive to that fact. And what Moshe and I were talking about, where health comes from, where true health comes from, is when you don't deny the reality of things. Like you actually look at it. So have people mislabeled things, and has allopathic medicine taken advantage of naivety? Have they mislabeled things? Have they done the disjointed, this is causism, or this is, cause and effect. This equals that. Absolutely they've done that.
Yeah.
And there are things in nature. If I go outside and I get bit by a copperhead snake, the puncture, the literal venom that gets squirted into my bloodstream, is my body going to react perfectly to that? One could say it dying reacted perfectly to that. This very German new medicine.
Yes. Yes.
Your consciousness just wasn't evolved enough, and you weren't one with the well, guess what? I'm not perfect. I make mistakes all the time. I have to have the ability to be able to adapt from the mistakes I make. And are there better ways to do that? Absolutely. Am I perfect in even knowing all the ways to be able to adapt to my mistakes? No. That's life. That's literally life. That's the whole point of life, is like you're learning how to adapt to your mistakes, and hopefully you have a growth mindset where you want to get better, which I do. So I'll listen to Dr. Marzell. I'll listen to Omosha. Do I take any of what they say lock, stock, and barrel and like that's the whole truth? Absolutely not. Because nobody has the whole picture. I have not made them an idol. I don't make what they espouse an idol either. I look at what they talk about, how they educate. I take what I take, and I don't take what I don't take. Is terrain all? Are the terrain theory people wholly correct? Absolutely not. Are the allopathic doctors absolutely correct? Absolutely not. Are the naturopathic doctors and homeopathists totally correct? No, no one's totally correct. And that's the humility of life, is actually like being like, oh, this person's got a little bit. This person's got a little bit. This person's got a little bit. And you make your own potpourri for your own set and setting. Like, I think it's a fool's errand. We don't have perfect information, so we can't say we have a perfect model.
Perfection, even of itself, that word, I broke that down because in my workshop, I was talking about to perfect is really just to execute. It's through form. It's not anything about being without fault. And yes, it's confronting to accept those things. I mean, I really am sinking my teeth into how you framed it about the adaptability, the resilience to mistakes, because there will be mistakes. The perfection, the perfect balance is by no means ours either. To be constantly perfectly calibrating. My recent bout was with poison ivy, which I get
Well, you got to
perennially.
rub some biochar on it. Ma-
that's where we're gonna land the plane, of course.
yeah,
Now you tell me.
yeah.
And
Marzell, man, she figured that out in New York, like when we did
yes.
the terrainology conference in October.
Well, my joke has been in recent years is that would be about the only vaccination I would get is if it if it promised inoculation from poison ivy, and so if you're telling me that inoculated, because I know you were talking about you read
I'll
about
send you some of
inoculated.
my micronized product because that's something that we're going to be bringing that to market in some cosmetics and soaps and things like that. And it's the world's best cleaner, and because it absorbs all the reactive oxygen
Yeah,
species, like whenever that toxin is doing its thing and your body is reacting perfectly to it, as your body's reacting perfectly to it and you're being driven crazy by it, when you actually put the biochar on it, it absorbs, it actually takes all those secondary reactive oxygen species and it pulls it to the center of the carbon. And so it's like almost immediate relief.
that's special. That's exceptional, especially with us being carbon-based life forms and how much of that courses through us.
Right?
And just to put the lid on where we took the discussion about terrain, I think what has me optimistic about leaning more into the terrain philosophy of health is that because there are probably as many terrains as there are people, and yes, we have our shared terrain environmentally. The environment is made up of each of us as well, and the charge that we put into the field or lack thereof. And so I feel like for the most part, the thought leaders in that space do concede that there is always another aspect, there is always another layer or element of terrain to explore. I mean, every single one is worth a deep dive. My hydration this morning, how much sleep I got last night, the circadian rhythm, my excitement for talking to you. I mean, just to name those handful of things, each one is worth deep consideration for every person. And that will require a level of constant evolution and mistakes made where there's not going to be the singular explanation for that. Of course, the only exception is that biochar is the cure to all ills in this world, both spiritual and
He's getting
otherwise.
it,
So
ladies and gentlemen. He's getting
this
it.
guy gets it.
He's getting it.
This guy gets it. So, how has this become your greatest pursuit? Even if you're not the most gifted salesman, because I don't think you had any at for. Did you have any for sale at Elementals? Did you have
Yeah,
any?
yeah. I sold like
Oh, you
40.
did. Okay,
I
good.
sold like
Okay,
40
good.
bags.
Okay, awesome. And if I can, I'll add just one question for your reflection as well, because when I hear someone like you who's done, what'd you say, nearly 200 interviews, just about plus or minus for your
Yes.
podcast, if not beyond. I remember you talked about interviewing one of your friends as either the best or the most important podcast you ever did.
Yes.
And it was your friend who counsels people and has experience really getting to know the energetics of the land. And so maybe not to his level of depth, if you could present that to anyone with ears to hear this right now, because I feel like this aligns beautifully with the terrain and the role of biochar. I'll use this as before I put a question mark on this. When I think of my friend Jared, who I was telling you about, who creates biodynamic skin and healthcare products, as someone who identifies as more of a terrain extremist, and I'm thinking, how or why could anything external benefit me? Of course, food is something external, water is something external. I'm talking beyond that. And he's using world-class products of calendula and St. John's wort and olive oil and honey, to name a few simple ingredients, biodynamically grown in concert with the seasons and the sun and the moon and his hands and his life and his family, all that. Uh, I am seeing more of the reasons potentially why those things can be assimilated by my body for my great benefit. And so talking about something like biochar, bringing that as an external stimulant of sorts, I know it's deeper than that, to the land, how can we all better observe and interact with our spaces? Because I mean, I look at the sandy, rocky soil out there and I get so defeated about what the hell could possibly grow here. How does then something like biochar come in and save the day?
Well, once again, it's observing how nature will naturally do something and knowing your set and setting. So, like, so where I live, this used to be the savannah, and now it's like a heavily wooded area because the settlers like planted lots of trees, birds spread their seed, things reproduce, blah blah blah. And so the savannah used to have tons of buffalo that would run on it and poop and all the rest of it, and the savannah had grasses that had very long roots, and those long roots essentially allowed for the biology to go really really deep into the ground, and all the poop allowed all the different carbon and phosphorus groups to build up. So when the settlers moved here, it was like free pickings for farming. You had 6 feet, 8 feet, 10 feet of topsoil. And because they didn't have practices that actually honored the soil all the way up until now, the industrialization, we first really saw it with the Dust Bowl. All the Dust Bowl occurred because of these terrible farming practices for 100 years plus. And essentially what it was people weren't aware of how to like recycle nutrients back into the ground or recycle biology back into the ground. They saw a resource and they took it. So the main resource that they took was carbon. So now we have a whole hydrocarbon industry that is out there to give us our carbon back in the form of NPK, which is, nitrogen, sodium, all the rest of it. But they give it to us in a hydrocarbon form. And they're giving it to us in a hydrocarbon form, one, because it's extremely profitable, but two, because we don't actually have the carbon left in our soil. Like the carbon that was once there is gone. It was used up. And so in seeing this, I moved to an area of the world where there's not supposed to be carbon in the ground. But yet I was an idiot trying to grow things that needed carbon in the ground. And so I found what the Amazonians did, which they called terra preta, which is biochar, and it worked. Hey, it worked for them. They had the most intensive agricultural, thing known to man 600 years ago, and their carbon is still incredible. It's still incredible. Like it still grows everything. And I was like, I need that. So I just started to create it. And then with my family moving back to the States, moving to the savannah and seeing how depleted the soil was here for about 3 years, I tested. Like my whole thing is I'm not in a rush, right? So I wasn't going to make the same mistake I made in Costa Rica where I went down there all guns blazing. Like I know what to do. Me, brilliant guy. Because I didn't. So I didn't pretend to know that what worked down in the tropics was going to work up here. Did my testing, found a good team, all the rest of it, saw what worked, saw what didn't work. And most things don't work. And this is where I think the athletic thing like you and I have really pays benefit. Because when you lose, you don't quit the sport. You know what I'm saying? So I lose a lot. Nobody really sees the losses because I never quit the sport. For 16 years, the sport in this, analogy is biochar. So I've lost in the fact of like, I tried to do it one way and I tried to do it another way. I didn't have right practices. I didn't know enough. All the different things. Those are tons and tons of losses, but I never quit the sport of biochar. And so now I'm getting to a level of mastery with it because, I have my 10,000 plus hours, whatever. And with that, and I still love it. Like, I'm like, to me, it's proof that God loves us. Like literally, like the thing that makes us is so abundant. All it takes is the removal of our ignorance to use it. And then we have everything we need because it does everything. It purifies. Like if you get your, poison ivy, it takes the pain away. It builds your body back up if you ingest it.
Listen, I'm not in it for my pain to be taken away. I'm not some, all is one
You're
type guy
kind
who wants
of
to
you're kind of pretty, Tom. Let's be honest. No, what I'm saying is the whole thing is with it, it's so simple. And to me, it's just the divine wink. It's like it's the first industry that I have felt good about other than massage, where I was like, it's okay for me to profit from this because I'm doing no harm. I'm literally like being a benefit. I never knew of any industries when I was a younger man that I felt consciously good to do because I saw all the profit was coming from taking advantage of people. And this is like a industry that like literally we need on multiple different levels. And it's a win-win-win. Like literally like in writing these grants and doing all these things, it's just like the full cycle of benefit is so massive. It's so massive. Like the federal government is like they're just looking for people to do it. They're like, please, we don't have the manpower to do this. Here's the money. Like, do this. So so I like that. Like for me, I'm like, okay, I've seen once again the fractal metaphor. I've seen in my own life, wow, there's a lack of carbon. That's problematic. Add the carbon, the problem goes away, and the benefit, and then the surplus. And so for me, I'm like, oh, that's nature signaling to me, yes, go, 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 go. And that's the way our, ever since we went online, because we had the business running for a few years, selling, local wholesale, and then I'm the guy who brought it online, and that whole thing has like really like taken off. So I'm really excited about it. I'm already looking at, building our next plant and having two other private investors build their plants and license the name and
Amazing.
all the rest of it. So,
Well, congratulations are in order because that's a labor of love, which means it's worth doing, it's sustainable, and I'm thrilled to hear that you see the massive field of service that it
and
applies.
once
And
again, just so people understand where I'm coming from, like I am a fuck up. For 15 years, I was trying to teach people how to make it themselves. And people kept saying, "Oh, that's cool. Just sell me the char.
yeah,
Just sell me the char. Just sell me the char."
oh,
So for every one of you that email me say, "Hey, do you have plans for your retorts? Do you have this or that?" I've had 1,000 emails saying, "Where's the char? I just want the char. Where do I get the char?" So just understand, like, I just started to listen to my environment and be like, okay, the demand is in the biochar because I'm a DIYer. I literally
yeah.
am the guy that takes my little girl out and like we make our biochar. I love that. That's a rare thing. There's like 10 of us out there that do that.
Yeah.
The majority of people that want the product, that's who I'm servicing now. And I'm happy to say we're servicing them well. Like people are really happy with it. And we only released two of our products. Right now we have 11 products in the queue, and I'm having it tested and, third party tested and all the rest of it. So, because they're all in different venues, I'm really excited about it. So for me, the growth potential in this, I still get to be the dude that yells at people that, biochar isn't charcoal. And like, I get to be that guy all along, like having people build up their soil quality and all the rest of it and learn to have a black thumb. Like, black thumbs are kind of racist. People don't want black thumbs. They use it as a derogatory thing. And I'm like, no, no, no. Have the black thumb. It's about being a good gardener. Like you actually,
It's a behavior. It's a
right, right. The black thumbs themselves are just neutral. It's because I was that dude too. Like I grew up as a metrosexual in South Florida. I didn't know how to like keep a plant alive. And now it's like a thriving business and I love it. Like I love my plants. I love being in tune with them and watching them and playing with soil, like different soil mixtures and the rest of it. It's very exciting for me. And I have to say on my own farm here In October, it'll be 4 years that we were here. Like our soil went from like maybe 6 inches subterranean of dark soil to now in my garden plot, I have over a foot and a half of like dark living soil. I can literally take my hand and scoop in there and have all the worms and all the rest of it. And that makes me really happy because to me, I see that as like a life sink. And, biodynamics, they call it like a biological amplifier. Like that little portion of my property now is signaling to the rest of the property, yes, we are fertile and we can produce calories. We can do this. And so that's what I want to promote. I want to make sure our calories are local and that people feel really good about the things that they put in their body and on their body. Hey, kitty, meow, 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 meow.
I think he can hear you actually through my headphones. Highly intuitive is Monty. Highly intuitive.
I love cats.
He's gonna break through that our blinds here in a moment, which it's fine. He can do whatever he wants.
Yeah.
And we don't have to accelerate the landing of the plane quite yet because I mean, first of all, again, tremendous encouragement, enthusiasm, excitement for you building all of that because it is well received, needed, all of that. Like you said, you love it and it loves you. It is
Yes.
very much we can tell that it's very much a symbiotic relationship. But to bring us home before my ultimate questions, my penultimate question is, since I keep coming back to that, how you implored people to lean into their people. If you have a prayer, if you have a thought that includes all of us who are in this moment together, what is that right now? I don't know if it's a billboard or if it's just another encouragement or a question that you would have. If you had the ears of everyone, I brought this up recently. If you ever read Atlas Shrugged, John Galt having the radio to really speak to everyone. And I mean, if you had that, I mean, you don't have hours. You have a couple minutes here. But what would your message be? Is it a prayer? Is it a message? Is it a challenge to people that you would offer to bring us home?
Embrace surprises. Because the truth of the matter is the outlier events of your life, the things you never planned for actually dictate the majority of your life. The happy accidents are what you're going to remember. You're not going to remember the things that you've strategized and you've dominated. It's always going to be like those things that you never saw coming. And don't pretend to think that you know what's best for you. I really see God answers prayers not with what you want, but with what you need. And so, things could seem like they're like really like tumultuous and like, you can't see the forest from the trees and the rest of it. You're just working through a transition of a surprise. It's something that you didn't expect. And so you didn't have a strategy and your ego is dealing with, I don't know. And so when you can swim in the waters of I don't know, then you're in a good space. Because then that's where trust happens. That's where the trust in your creators really starts to come through.
Spoken like a true alchemist. Thank you for that, Topher. And now just with some softballs to finish, because this is the Home Court Health Podcast, and so I hope I asked you this last time, and if not, we've got some great fresh answers. Starting with the home, what's one thing you've done lately to improve the quality of your home, the nourishment of your home, to really make it your castle where you go to rest and recover and connect? What's something you've done lately that you feel like you've reaped the benefits of?
That's a great question. What I've done lately. How do you define lately?
Within the year, within this
Oh,
season,
well, within the year, it's been renovations. Like
amazing. Okay,
I've
great,
completely renovated this house. I'm 95% done.
beautiful.
And so in that's been huge. Like pretty much this was like just an old farmhouse that I had to rip apart. You can see back there, I don't even have the trim on that window because I'm making that window into a bookcase. I got all my black walnut slabs. I'm going to plane and finish those and put in some really nice bookshelves. I have to finish the trim in our new ensuite bathroom. I had to finish the trim in the dining room. Yeah, so just like beautifying. I have two beautiful girls in my life, my wife and my daughter. Pretty girls need pretty things.
Yes, they
Uh,
do.
making sure that things are prettier than they were, and listening to what they need. And I'm super simple. I don't really care, but I just
I
listen.
say, yeah, I say all the time I could live in a cardboard box, but she's
Guy,
much
guys
prettier than that.
can,
So yeah,
guys can like we're Labradors. We're just like, yeah, whatever.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, again, that's wonderful to hear because that makes a big difference, and we have similar plans. So we'll talk. How about the court, Topher? Is there any arena where you find yourself being challenged to compete in a new and different way? It doesn't have to be sport, just somewhere you feel like you're really in the arena, looking to test yourself.
Yeah, I think since last we spoke, I had to get my appendix removed.
Yeah,
And so that was a shock, but it really wasn't. Like it was a shock when the pain hit and I was like doubled over and like,
yeah,
you know, that whole thing. So for me, I have to like now being in my 50s, it's just like, oh, like the everyday care thing is like a thing. Like that's something that I'm challenged by because I do have four different businesses, and I have so much expenditure of energy from like an empire building perspective that I've been lackadaisical on my physical self. And I don't accept like the dad bod thing. Like I think that is a cop out, and I'm realistic of I only have so much energy. So what I hadn't been realized, I had a lot of biological debt with my sleep cycle. I thought it was natural to only sleep like 6 hours a day. And what the surgery showed me was it actually gave me permission to sleep, if that makes any sense. And because the cycle of me being in the cortisol cycle endlessly was broken from the surgery, now I'm sleeping like 8 hours and I'm like really looking forward to it. Like
yeah,
I'm like, because I never believed that in the past. I was like, oh yeah, ever since high school, I slept, 5, 6 hours a night. That's just me. I had pride in that. And I didn't realize like the damage it was doing to my body. And so now I'm past that. Now I'm like, oh, I'll give myself permission to sleep 8 or 9 hours. And it's amazing because I was doing all this exercise and stuff like that when I was sleeping 5 or 6 hours a night, and like my body was just gaining and gaining weight. And then I have a good night's sleep and I wake up and I'm like lost 10 pounds. And it was just because I think that cortisol cycle, the hormones and everything of being in that constant cortisol cycle. So for me, the challenge, and my wife has known this forever. She's been telling me, she's like, you need to rest. Like your problem is you don't take enough rest. And so that's the court for me at the moment, is learning how to rest.
worthy challenge for sure. And it reminds me of one of the other excellent talks from Confluence this year, a gentleman called Garen Assay, and a very powerful exercise he had us do was make a fist as tight as you
Yeah.
possibly can, and every minute or two, I think I shared this with you, worth sharing with people listening. Every minute or two, continue to clench even harder to the point where you don't think you can do it anymore. And after we did that for about 6 or 7 minutes, and he said, "Let go." And for people watching, I'm still making my fist, and I had let go, and my hand stayed in a fist for at least as long as I was actively clenching. And he said that's what it's like to change, is you hold so long, you have these patterns ingrained and forced for so long that as much as people just say, oh, surrender, change, do things differently, there's likely to still be not a forceful resistance. It's just you've been in this mold for so long. And so then, you give yourself the space to relax and break out of it, and then you can
Well, I
extend,
didn't give
expand.
myself this space. Like God
No,
took it.
I was going to say,
Like I had made an idol out of, oh, I don't need that much sleep. Like I had that pride, and I was greatly humbled. Greatly humbled. Things I said I would never do, like I wouldn't ever get a surgery from an
yeah,
allopathic doctor. I don't need healthcare because I'm,
there you go.
and all that stuff. And it was like, really? Oh, really? Let me give you a little sepsis. Let me rip your gut out for a second and see how much pride you have. And so, and the thing was too, God's gentle. I was signaled for like a few weeks. Like I was getting
Yeah.
signals when I look back at it. When I was doing the accounting in the hospital bed, I was like, I was being told. I was being told. I kept like from different angles. I was like, and I didn't listen.
And a healthy body is a sensitive, intuitive body. So, and that's a perfect exemplar of what we talked about earlier, to beseech people constantly evaluate their idols. And what is that thing that you say you will never do, or that great pride that you take in something that you identify as yourself? It becomes godly, and there's usually an invitation there. So I'll still ask, if there is one thing that comes up in that journey as the ultimate question, what's something you've started doing or stopped doing to enhance your health? That you feel like that one thing, I started doing this or I stopped doing that, has changed the way that you feel health wise.
When I feel tired, I nap.
At a babe. At a babe.
Yep. And before, I never really give myself permission to do that. Like I
That's
literally, like
well
at
responded.
night, I would allow myself to go to bed early. Like I'm notorious amongst my friend group of like just falling asleep while everybody's, having a great time. At night, I would give myself permission for that. But I like now knowing all of the physiology of not being exhausted, I must have been in exhaustion for a minimum of 6 years. Ever since my wife got pregnant, I think I was in exhaustion because I never gave myself permission to stop ever. I mean, I'm a serial business owner. Like that's not healthy.
Yeah. By no means. No.
But
And
the thing is, I say that to like make fun of myself. Like I know people that are real A types. I'm not an A type in the sense of like I obsess about things. I'm much more of a generalist. But I am an A type under the thing of like, am I being productive? Am I being productive? Am I being productive? Am I being productive? And I've had that drilled into me ever since like I was good in athlete as an athlete in like middle school. I was like, what can I do for my craft? What can I do? What can I do? What can I do? Like I the second I found out like what the best people were doing, I was doing it, you know? And like in a very weird way, even though I got really crunchy with things living in the rainforest and playing with dirt, like I still had that like, okay, what's next? What's next? What's next? And that's not healthy. It's not.
that's another idol that's certainly glorified in a lot of the shared culture we have now. And I'm immensely grateful and inspired that you are navigating your way through all of that to even more vitality so that you can continue to circulate your gifts. And you have many, Topher. It was one of the considerable highlights of Confluence that you got to set the tone, that you took full advantage. And you reminded all of us that we're not islands, that we depend on the charge of other people. We depend on the tension in our lives, the visitations of painful lessons and mistakes, and rewards and fruits and all of that. And it does demand our presence. And it's been a pleasure and a privilege to host you for this moment. Land us with where people can find you, follow you, admire you, fangirl you, all of that.
So I'm at Biocharisma on all the social media stuff. If you want to see any of like my interviews that I do or any of the media I produce, I really like to write, and I put that on Substack, as Tom led with. Like I'm pretty brief in how I write, just because I don't want to waste your time. But I do have a podcast that I've been doing on and off for 11 years, which is a lot of fun. So at Biocharisma for all that. If you want to see what we did at the Elementals Festival, we are actually going to be selling the videos for that by the end of this month. Yeah, which is really kind of cool. So
Yeah.
for people that actually came to Elementals Gathering, I think the price will be $80, like $79.99 for all the videos. I think we had 17
Oh,
we had 17 speakers and two panels. It's I think $119.99 for those that didn't come, but
feel.
we're giving a discount to people on that. So we got that going on. And then my biochar company, you can, go to that. It's blackgoldbiochar.com. That's doing awesome. Get your carbon for a whole host of different things, but mainly for your soil. Like our main product that we're selling is just like agricultural based biochar along with its inoculant, which gives the biology to the carbon. So those are the main things that I have going on at the moment.
What an exciting time to build. And it almost seems a fool's errand to build in a time of so much destruction,
No,
relentless
no, no,
growing
no.
destruction.
Do it
Yeah.
while there's blood on the streets. You
Yeah.
gotta understand, one of the main thing that the rhetoricists use is they use the freeze. They know people will
Yeah.
fight, flight, or
Yeah.
freeze. And so they do these things whenever they're like really pumping the fears because they're making big moves. And the whole thing that brought me into biochar literally was like other than its effectiveness on my farm was I saw them doing the freeze method of rhetoric. And when I read Agenda 21, they were trying to have people freeze on carbon by making it the bad man, making it the original sin. And I'm like, I see what you're doing. Carbon is actually the answer. And so I went in that direction, and it's proven to be true. So whenever they're pumping something for you to freeze in, they're doing that because they want to make an enemy out of that which would benefit you. Don't let them do that.
Excellent challenge for all of us to take with us to look even deeper into anything that's going on in our environment. Topher Gardner, much love to you, man. Thank you so much for joining me today. This was brilliant.
Awesome, Tom.